first time that I had heard about the Grand Theatre Swansea was my parents brought me along. My parents weren't really theatricals or into any sort of theatre at all, but for some reason we came to the Grand to watch Godspell. It was my mum, my dad, my Uncle Billy, who'd come from Scotland, and myself. And I don't know how old I was. I was probably about 8 years old, I think, around about that. And we watched Godspell. And I just remember in the interval, the audience were invited to go up onto the stage to have a glass of wine, which of course you probably wouldn't be able to do today. And of course I didn't have a glass of wine, but I went on the stage. And I can remember that really vividly. I can see myself sat in the auditorium. I can see myself going up. There were steps leading up the side of the stage and walking on the stage and then turning around and looking at the auditorium and just having that overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, that wow factor of looking back at something. And I think the overriding feeling was, I want to have this feeling again and again. And I think that's probably where the germ of an idea of I want to be an actress came from, is the kind of experience that I was having in the auditorium, but I had a much greater experience standing looking back at it from the stage. So I think that's where my first kind of one feelings of I want to be an actress, and two, the Grand Theatre Swansea. Yeah. From a very young age, I was always entertaining, and my mum can remember, or she tells me that my mum and dad are both Scottish. I've lived in Wales all my life, really. We were very young. I was a baby when we were brought here, and we first lived in a caravan in Plunge Lane down in the Mumbles, and my mother was the barmaid at the White Rose. And there were now and again that I would be brought to the White Rose, and I would be in the beer garden at the back, standing on the table, singing Lina Zavaroni, Mama, he's making eyes at me. But that kind of, my mum tells me that I was always entertaining. I was always sort of the one that was wanting to sort of stand on a table and sing. That hasn't changed, by the way. A couple of drinks and I'm known to stand on tables and sing. But I think it's always been sort of in me to sort of perform. And also we were a religious family. I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not practicing anymore, but I went to Catholic school. God, there's a lot of theatricality in religion. It's about performing as well. There's costumes, there's, the sort of the giving, the receiving, there was a lot of theatricality in being brought up as a Catholic. And I was always in the school plays. In the primary school, I went to St Illtyd's in Bonnymine. And so I really relished that. And a teacher had seen something in me that sort of, I think he said, it was Mr. Rees, you've always got that one teacher from you that just absolutely believes in you. And he was the one that sort of pushed me to sort of better myself. And he had found a course that was going on at Canaldra in Swansea at the time, and he sort of put me forward for it. Must have been about 10. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And from there, going into comprehensive, another drama teacher, Mr. Lewis, put me forward for West Glam Youth Theatre. And it was there that I just thought, I found my people. And you just kind of, something clicks in you where you go, this is what I was meant to do. This is, this is absolutely what I'm meant to do. And so West Glam Youth Theatre was a real life-changing moment for me. It was where I learnt the discipline and the art of theatre, of performing. I met friends, great friendships that I have today, even still today. I was 15 when I got into West Glam Youth Theatre, and I didn't leave till I was 21. And that was only because I was kicked out, because that was the age that you had to leave. Otherwise I would still be there. In fact, I am kind of still there because I now teach for the Outreach Project. And that's, when I was asked to come back and teach, that was just like a full circle moment, you know, where you're just giving back to what had essentially given me all the skills and the disciplines and the art forms and the friendships that I have today. You know, it felt like a full circle moment. So getting into performing and becoming an actress stemmed from that point. And so lots of things led up to that, but West Glam Youth Theatre was where I knew that this is what I was going to do. So 10 years from first sort of entering the Grand Theatre, and sort of having that moment and longing to be on that stage, I heard about the amateurs in Swansea, and that was an opportunity to get on this stage. You know, I think I was about 15, I think, and I was in school, and in my school was the actress. She was a year above me, Julie Payne, who then became Julie Payton. Okay, so she was in my school, and she would do the assemblies. Every time we had assembly, Julie Payne was on the stage, and she was always singing Elvis. There's an Elvis number, Wise Man Say, and he feels right. She would sing that. This is a lasting memory for me, okay, because this is the point where I'm looking at our assemblies and going, I want to be her. I want to do what she's doing. And she was always in the pantomimes here at the Grand. So I was like, well, okay, right, then how do I get onto the Grand stage? I'll write to whoever was a theatre manager. So at that time, you know, no opportunities to get into this building. So in the Yellow Pages, Grand Theatre, Gary Isles, I'll write to him. I never got an answer back. I wrote to him. Unbeknownst to anybody, it was this desire to be here on this stage, and I think even in the first day of comprehensive, we all had to write down, what did you want to do when you grow up? And I wrote, I want to be Julie Payne. I just wanted to be an actress. And I remember the teacher opening them all up, and everybody had to guess who was going to be those things. I didn't think they were going to call it out, and I want to be Julie Payne. And who could that possibly be? And everybody pointed at me, and I was like, I was just so visible that I wanted to be an actress. And I was so visible that I was so obsessed with Julie Payne. Of course, she went on to marry Alvin Stardust. So, you know, great. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I must tell you about the first time I stepped on this stage. You know, I was part of Gendros Amateurs, and they were doing The Merry Widow, and I got to be in it, and I got to be on that stage. So that's where I first entered the sort of, you know, my journey of being part of this theatre. And then subsequently, Swansea Amateurs were doing Pirates of Penzance, and I got to play Isabel, one of the daughters of the Major General, played by Peter Howard, who was just an amazing kind of influence to so many people who were part of that amateur scene, you know. And then from that led on to a new amateur company that was starting up, which was called Chrysalis Theatre Company. And he was doing Chicago. And somebody said to me, you should go along and audition for that. And I auditioned for the part of Velma Kelly, the lead. And I got it. I had a really husky voice at the time, you know, and I remember him saying to me, oh gosh, you know, when you get over the cold, that'll sound great. And I thought, no, that's actually how I sound. So, oh gosh, I can remember. The opening sequence was, I was the opening, you know, come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? And all that jazz, and I had to sort of open the show by stepping in front of the curtain. And it's really weirdly, because I stood there the other day, there's a gap between where the cross arch ends and where the curtain opens, and I was stood in that little nook, and I had to stand there, and I stood there the other day, and I literally brought on all that, you know, the adrenaline and the fear. You know, it's mixed with excitement and fear. And the band John Quirk was in the orchestra, and he would start, you know, playing the overture, and I could feel it the other day, just that stomach going, and that, you know, that all those doubts and the, oh my God, what's the first line? What am I doing? You know, I've got to open the show, and then stepping out onto the stage. And I had that feeling the other day, and I was taken right back to that moment where I had to open Chicago, and it's just, and when you step out to it, all that feeling went away, because then I opened my mouth and started singing The Show Has Opened. And it was there that I met Christian Patterson. He was in that show. I didn't really know him at that point, because he was just playing Fred Casely and I was Velma Kelly, you know. And so it was kind of, we knew each other, but we didn't really know each other. But that was the first time that I had a lead role, and I felt the responsibility and the weight of it on my shoulders to open the show at the Grand. So that was quite a moment for me, actually, and I felt nice. It felt good. I felt comfortable in it. It didn't feel too weighty. I kind of really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was the first kind of moments of being on that stage. 10 years later to that, it's all tens here, actually, you know. That's interesting. But 10 years later to that, I was cast in a production. It's my first professional job at the Grand, and I was cast as the part of Selina in a play called Flesh and Blood, and it was written by Helen Griffin, the great Helen Griffin from Swansea, who has passed now, sadly, and she'd written this beautiful play called Flesh and Blood, and I was cast in it by Phil Clark at the Sherman Theatre, and it was a collaboration between the Sherman Theatre, Cardiff, and the Hampstead Theatre, London. So it was going to tour Wales, play the Sherman for 2 weeks, then go to London at the Hampstead Theatre, and then come back and play another 2 weeks at the Sherman. Incredible job, incredible first professional job. Myself, Di Botcher, Brian Hibbard, and Steve Mayo, and it was just amazing. And I remember we played the Sherman, and at the new theatre at the time, Theatre Clwyd, were doing Rape of the Fair Country, the Alexander Cordell trilogy, and Steve said, "Do you want to go along to see that?" And I said, "Who's in it?" And we looked down the cast list, and it was there was lots, but there was Christian Patterson, and I went, I was in Chicago with him 10 years ago, I know him. So I wrote a little note and sent it backstage saying, "I don't know whether you remember me, but we were in Chicago together, and I'm in tonight. If you fancy a drink in the bar, we could meet up." And true enough, he did remember me, and we met in the bar, and he said, "I'm coming along to see you in Flesh and Blood when you get to the Hampstead." And by the time he got to the Hampstead, I'd been told about a play that was coming back to the Grand called The Oyster Catchers. Christian had been cast as the romantic lead in it, and had cast in choice of who he wanted to play his romantic lead. I was third choice. and so he'd two other actresses had turned it down, and I was third choice. Anyway, I got to play opposite Christian in a play called The Oyster Catchers, which was a book by Iris Gower and Helen Griffin had adapted, and so I came back to the Grand again in a leading role with Christian. We became great friends, and it was there that we met romantically, and then went on to get married. So yeah, again, there's a full circle there somewhere. So yeah, interesting. 2016, the 75th anniversary of Swansea Blitz, the 3-night Blitz. I was approached by Man on Eames as she was writing a play about the three-night Blitz, 19th to the 21st of February 1941, when Swansea was just attacked by Germany, and it changed the landscape of Swansea forever. So it's such a prolific moment in our history of Swansea, where, you know, so many people died. We lost our, you know, majority of our buildings, historical buildings, people. You know, it was just an awful time, and Manon had done such a wonderful job in capturing the voices of people who remembered that time, of the historical moments of that time, and she'd put it into this beautiful piece of, you know, theatre. And so it was a real honour to be part of something like that. I think it was Joyo Productions that had got involved with the Grand Theatre to put on that production, and it was to be here at the Grand, and it was just, yeah, it was an honour to be part of it, to tell those stories. It was done in such a really clever way. You know, I learnt a lot about it, and of course I learnt that, you know, an incendiary bomb had actually landed on the roof of the Grand Theatre, but it never went off. Thank God. You know, we'd lost our market, the St Mary's, a lot of High Street, St Thomas, Mayhill. You know, it was an incredible sort of insight into what went on. So to pay tribute to that was amazing. And I think it was a great testament to how we deal with disasters, you know, how our community came together to help each other, to sort of, and how we can rebuild after such a disaster, you know, and how Swansea was changed forever. Yeah, it was a great play. Growing up, I think I recognised that I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the opportunities. You know, my little 15-year-old self looking through the yellow pages to find the theatre manager and all that sort of thing. There wasn't the opportunities there that I think sometimes, well, that there is today. But there's not enough. There's not enough opportunities, or there haven't been in Swansea, and so therefore we've always had to cross the bridge. And as much as I think it is important to cross the bridge in order to recognise that we've got to come home, I think we need to make it more accessible, to have the opportunities here in Swansea, to have the funding here in Swansea, to keep the talents that we have. I think during the years that we've had recently, throughout the pandemic and things like that, we've recognised the need to make the kind of work that we need to make here in Swansea to keep the skills and the talents that we have here. We recognise that. And I think it's long overdue that we have that here in Swansea, and that we make the arts accessible to the youth of Swansea, and not just the youth, to the established, to the emerging writers, young or old, or in between. So Grand Ambition is something that is very important to everybody here in Swansea. We need to be making those inroads to collaborating with the people that are already doing stuff here, like the Llewellyns, like the Lighthouse, like the Volcanoes, and all the other sort of theatre companies that are here in Swansea. We've got an amazing arena that's coming to Swansea. We absolutely embrace that. We've got the depot coming at the Albert Hall. We've got there's lots of craft centres that are starting up down in the bay. There's so much happening in Swansea artistically, and it's elevating the arts here. We're so proud to be part of this city and to be here right now and to be part of, the Grand Theatre, bringing creativity back, bringing theatre back to the theatre. It's giving the arts a platform to stand upon, to be proud, to create what we want to create through music, through the arts, through writing, through song, through dance. And we welcome anybody that wants to work with us. We've all done it. We've all been there. We've all worked professionally within the industry. And now this is a giving back. This is the full circle thing that we've always been talking about. This is the tapping into what we know and to giving the opportunity back to those that want to know more. That 11-year-old girl who said I wanted to be an actress, that 15-year-old who didn't know where to start and was looking through the yellow pages. Grand Ambition is made up of 4 people. We're all friends. We've known each other for years. We're all really in awe of each other. I think that's important to say. It's made up of myself, Christian Patterson, a great actor, writer, director, singer, dancer. I know you wouldn't know it, but he does. He's a world-class ballroom dancer. Richard Milan, again, an amazing actor, writer, director, dancer. Steve Balsamo, amazing actor, singer, performer, songwriter. It's just, I think it's just a force to be reckoned with, to be honest with you. I'm really proud to be part of this team. I think we all bring to the table something different and we all complement each other really beautifully. We bounce off each other ideas, and creatively, I think we're pretty special, That's not blowing my own trumpet. I know that we can make magic. I know that we can. And I really hope that we inspire others to do what they want to do. I hope that's the case. I know they inspire me. So there's a mutual respect there. We're a good team, and we're going to bring a world-class creative collective to this building and to Swansea. It's exciting. If I'm going to sum up what I think Grand Ambition is, I think we are fueled by positivity. It's something that is definitely, it's always been in ground. I've always been a very optimistic, positive person. I've always looked at finding the positive in the negative. I think that's really important. And I think it's definitely ingrained in what we do as a team in Grand Ambition. There's so much negativity in the world, but in particular, I think sometimes not always in Swansea, but I find sometimes there is a negative element. Steve calls it Swansea-itis. It's this kind of, and I don't think maybe negativity is a strong word. I think it's just we're not braggers. And we should brag a little bit more, We should brag about being a very talented city, a very beautiful city. We're going to, we always hark back to Dylan Thomas and oh gosh, I love Dylan Thomas. My son is called Dylan. I love Dylan Thomas. But he gave us a graveyard for ambition. Poetical, beautiful, negative. He also gave us the ugly, lovely town. It's so poetic, it's beautiful, it's lyrical, it's negative. We can agree with it, we can. There's lovely parts of Swansea and there's ugly parts of Swansea, we get it. But I think we need to be changing the narrative now. We need to be thinking big, grand if you like. We need to be ambitious. We need to be positive about everything that we have here within Swansea. I, before all this has happened, didn't drive into Swansea every single day. I drive into Swansea every single day now. I see Swansea changing every single day. I'm so proud to be part of this city. I'm so proud to see it emerging and rising up, and the buildings that are rising up through the city, that I'm starting to think that we're being valued. I'm beginning to think that the council is, but I think they've always thought this, we just didn't see it. They've always valued us as artists, and now I can see it. It's visible that we are being valued, and we need to start valuing ourselves. We need to start being more ambitious. And, you know, if you think of that word ambitious, what does that word mean? It's a desire to be better than what you already are. It's a desire to make things happen and to change things, and to find something within you that can spark something that then will ignite something else, that will then set something on fire, and it literally will fuel, you know, our city, the people within it. We need to spark something, and I hope that Grand Ambition is just starting to spark something that will fuel ambition throughout. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting. It's sparky. That's what it is. It's sparky, and we're starting that. Who started the fire? We did.